Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are tackling a text that sits right at the heart of one of the world's great spiritual classics.
Hmm.
We're looking at chapter 12 of the Bhagavad Gita. It's called Bhakti Yoga, the yoga of devotion. And, looking at our sources, it seems simple on the surface. Love, devotion.
It's deceptively simple. It really is. And the first thing that strikes you is that it's one of the shortest chapters in the whole Gita.
How short are we talking?
Just 20 verses. But for so many scholars and practitioners, this is the crown jewel. This is the peak of the teaching on God.
Which is saying a lot. I mean, we're talking 700 verses of really dense philosophy. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of devotion, we should probably set the stage. Where are we in the story? Because the Gita has a very specific structure, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. You can't really get chapter 12 without understanding the floor plan of the whole building. You can think of it as 3 sections, 6 chapters each.
Okay, like a 3-story house. What's on the ground floor?
So chapters 1 through 6, that's all about who am I? It's self-knowledge. It's about figuring out that you aren't just this body. You're not this anxious mind. You're something, deeper. Consciousness itself.
Right, the internal work. You have to know the equipment before you can use it.
Precisely. Then you go up to the second floor, chapters 7 through 12. And the focus shifts completely to what is God?
The nature of the divine.
Exactly, the absolute, the source of everything. And then the top floor, chapters 13 to 18, brings it all together. It's about the identity, the connection between the self and God.
So chapter 12 is the finale of that middle section.
It's the grand finale, the last word on the nature of God before we move into the really heavy philosophy of how it's all connected.
And we have to remember the context here. This isn't some quiet lecture. It's happening on a battlefield. But our sources make a really profound point. It's not just a historical war.
Oh, that's crucial. If you just read it as history, you miss 90% of it. The battle isn't just out there. It's in here.
In us.
Yeah. We all have an Arjuna inside us, that humble, seeking side that wants to do the right thing but is just so confused. And we also have a Duryodhana.
The villain of the story.
Right. But internally, he represents our ego. The restless, angry, entitled side of us that wants to control everything. The part that gets road rage, that holds a grudge for 10 years.
I know that guy.
We all do. The Gita is really a guide on how to empower the Arjuna in you to win against the Duryodhana.
Okay, so in the middle of all this, Arjuna asks Krishna a very, very pointed question. And it's one that really pits 2 major spiritual paths against each other. It's kind of the head versus heart.
That's the central conflict of this whole chapter. Arjuna asks, who's the better yogi? Is it the person who worships you, Krishna, as a personal god with a form, a face, someone you can love? Or is it the one who meditates on the formless, the abstract, the unmanifest, imperishable?
So on one side, you've got bhakti, devotion, love, relationship. On the other, jnana, the path of knowledge, meditating on pure consciousness. He's basically asking, which one's better? Give me the shortcut.
He wants a ranking. And what's so surprising is that Krishna's answer is completely unequivocal. Usually these texts are very diplomatic, both paths are good.
Right, it depends on your personality.
Exactly. But here, Krishna doesn't hedge at all. He says the devotees, the bhakti yogis, they are the best yogis.
That's so interesting because the path of knowledge, meditating on the formless, that usually gets pitched as the advanced class in spiritual circles.
It does.
So why does he lean so hard into devotion here?
It comes down to one thing, practicality. He explains that meditating on something that has no form, no name, no qualities, it's incredibly difficult for what he calls embodied beings.
Meaning us, humans.
Exactly. We live in bodies. We relate to forms, to names, to relationships. Our entire emotional system is built for connection with people and things. We know how to love a child, a parent, a friend.
That makes so much sense. One of our sources used a great phrase for it. Trying to fix the mind on the formless absolute is like trying to catch the wind.
Perfect analogy. You can't grab it. But bhakti uses the emotions you already have. It doesn't say destroy them. It says pivot them. Take that capacity for love and attachment and just aim it at the divine.
Work with the equipment you've got.
Right. Even the strictest non-dualists who ultimately believe in the formless, they admit that bhakti is the easier on-ramp to get to that same place.
So Krishna makes his preference clear. But then he does something I just love. He knows not everyone is ready for perfection. He offers this ladder of practice.
Yes, this is where it becomes so practical. It's a hierarchy. He says, if you can't do the highest thing, try this. If you can't do that, well, try this instead. It's a cascade of safety nets.
Okay, let's climb that ladder. What's the top rung?
Top rank is total absorption, samadhi. Krishna says, fix your mind on me alone. Let your intellect just dissolve into me.
Yeah, okay, reality check.
Yeah.
That is incredibly hard.
It's almost impossible for a beginner. The sources compare the mind to a flickering flame or a restless child, keeping it 100% on the divine without a single thought about what's for lunch. Good luck.
Right. So Krishna knows this. He says, okay, if you can't do that, then what?
Then you go to level 2, Abhyasa Yoga, the yoga of practice. If you can't be absorbed effortlessly, you use repetition.
So you schedule it.
You schedule it.
Yeah.
You set aside time, morning and evening, to sit, to meditate, to train the mind. It's like a gym workout for your attention.
You're doing the reps because you know you aren't fit yet.
Exactly. You just keep pulling the mind back every time it wanders. But, even that can be really tough for people with busy, chaotic lives.
So level 3.
Level 3 is mat karma, work for God. If you can't sit still and focus your mind, then use your body and your speech.
Active worship.
Active worship, singing, chanting, serving others, building a shrine, volunteering. Our notes mention the devotees in Vrindavan.
Oh, yeah. That lifestyle is fascinating. Can you break that down?
Well, in that tradition, they don't just think about God. Their entire day is structured around the temple deity as if it were a living person, a guest of honor. They literally wake the deity up in the morning, they bathe and dress it, they cook for it, they put it to bed at night.
So the physical action is the meditation.
It is. You don't stop working, you just change who you're working for. But Krishna goes even one step further. Level 4. And this is the one that's, I think, most relevant for us today, the ultimate safety net.
Okay, let's hear it. This is for the person who's thinking, I can't move to an ashram. I've got a 9 to 5 and kids.
Exactly. This is level 4, karma, phala, tyaga, surrendering the fruits of your action.
What does that look like in a normal life?
Krishna says, do your duty, do your job, care for your family, fight your battle, but mentally let go of the results, surrender them to God. You put in the work, but you give up the anxiety about how it's all going to turn out.
It's like saying, I'll do my absolute best as an offering, but whether I succeed or fail, that's not my department.
Precisely. And here's the twist. While this looks like the lowest rung, Krishna praises it so highly because it leads to immediate shanti, immediate peace.
Because most of our stress isn't from the work itself.
No, it's from worrying about the outcome. Will I get the promotion? Will they like my presentation? Will this all fall apart? If you surrender the fruit, the stress it evaporates.
There's that incredible story in the sources about the power of attorney. It makes this so clear.
Oh, I love that one. It's about a playwright, Girish Ghosh, in 19th century Kolkata. He was a genius, but a total bohemian. Wildlife. He goes to his guru, Ramakrishna, and says, look, I want to be spiritual, but I can't do any of this. I can't meditate on a schedule. I'm a mess.
He's being honest, at least.
Totally. So Ramakrishna tells him, fine, if you can't do any of the disciplines, just give God the power of attorney over your life.
Meaning, legally, God is now in charge.
Metaphorically, yes. If you give someone power of attorney, they make the decisions, they sign the checks. Ramakrishna was telling him to let the divine manage his life.
But there's a huge catch, right?
Oh, a massive catch. If you give someone power of attorney, you cannot keep grabbing the steering wheel. You have to truly let go. If something bad happens, you have to accept it as the will of the trustee. No complaining.
Wow. That actually sounds harder than meditating. It requires so much trust.
It's a huge psychological discipline. And that brings us perfectly to the next part of the chapter. Krishna moves from how to practice to what a true devotee actually looks like.
Right, verses 13 to 20 is like a character profile.
Yeah.
And the very first quality is adveshta, no hatred.
You cannot hate anyone, not even your enemies, which is a huge ask when you remember Arjuna is on a battlefield looking at people who are literally trying to kill him.
But there's a key nuance here, which I think is so important. The Tiger Narayana story. We have to talk about that because people confuse no hatred with being a doormat.
It's a classic teaching story. A guru taught his students that God, or Narayana, is in everything and everyone. So one of his disciples is walking in the forest and sees a tiger charging at him.
And he thinks, a test of my faith.
Exactly. He thinks, the teacher said God is in the tiger. This is Tiger Narayana. I should greet him, not run. So he just stands there, hands folded in prayer.
I have a bad feeling about this.
You should. The tiger mauls him and leaves him for dead. Later, the teacher finds him and asks, why on earth didn't you run? And the disciple gasps, but you said God is in the tiger.
And the teacher's response is the whole point.
It is. The teacher says, "You fool. Yes, God was in the tiger, but God was also in the man on the hill screaming at you to run away. Why didn't you listen to that Narayana?"
I love that. So the lesson is you bow to the tiger as God, but you do it from a safe distance.
Precisely. Spiritual love does not mean abandoning common sense. You don't hug the tiger. You respect the divinity within it, but you also respect its fundamental nature, which is to eat you. It's a profound teaching on boundaries.
There's another little story in here that stuck with me. The 00 monk. This gets at how we hold on to things mentally.
Ah, yes. This illustrates non-possessiveness. This monk lived under a tree, and he called his practice 0, 0. He started every day with 0 possessions.
0. Literally nothing.
Nothing. If people gave him food or a blanket, he used what he needed and gave the rest away before sunset. He refused to hold on to anything for the next day.
That's radical.
It is. But the deeper 0 was psychological. He did the same with emotions. If someone insulted him or hurt him during the day, he gave it away before he went to sleep. He refused to carry today's dirt into tomorrow.
And that's the part that hits me. We collect grudges like souvenirs. Our mental bank accounts are full of resentments from a decade ago.
They are. Krishna says a devotee needs a clean slate. You can't be filled with the divine if you're already filled up with old garbage. You have to mentally brush off the day.
Okay, let's talk about emotional stability. The text talks about not getting too high with the highs or too low with the lows. And there was this amazing analogy about a window frame.
The warped window, yes. This comes from a commentary on houses in Kerala, India, where the weather is extreme. If you build a window frame with cheap, unseasoned wood, it warps.
It reacts to the humidity and the heat.
Exactly. When it gets hot and humid, the wood swells and the window slams shut. You can't pry it open. When it's dry, it shrinks and might fly open and not close properly. The weather controls the window.
That is a perfect metaphor for the undisciplined mind.
It is. We get good news, a promotion, a compliment, and we slam open. We're elated, manic, we lose our center. Then we get bad news, a criticism, a setback, and we slam shut. Depressed, we shut the world out.
So the devotee aims for a seasoned mind.
A seasoned mind, one that doesn't warp with the external weather. It opens and closes when you want it to. You can still feel joy, you can feel sadness, but you aren't a hostage to those feelings.
This feels connected to that idea that heaven and hell aren't places you go later. They're states you create right now.
The samurai story illustrates this perfectly. A big, imposing samurai stomps up to a Zen master and demands, "Teach me about heaven and hell."
He wants a definition.
And the master gives him a live demonstration instead. He looks the samurai up and down and says, "Teach you. You're a brute, a clumsy fool. I have no time for the likes of you."
Which, for a samurai, is the ultimate insult to his honor.
The ultimate. The samurai's face turns crimson. He draws his massive sword ready to slice the master's head off, and in that instant, as the sword is raised, the master looks him in the eye and says calmly, "That is hell."
And the samurai just gets it in a flash.
He freezes. He realizes in that moment of rage, of lost control, he created hell inside himself. He's so stunned by the insight that he puts his sword away and bows deeply in gratitude.
And the master says,
"And that is heaven."
it's immediate.
Wow. We're making these choices, creating these states every single moment.
Speaking of how we interact with the world,
Yeah.
the chapter talks about being aniketa, which literally means homeless. That sounds extreme.
It does, but we have to understand it psychologically. It doesn't mean you have to be a vagrant. It means you're not psychologically sticky. Yeah, you're not so attached to a specific place or a comfort zone or an identity that you fall apart if it's taken away. The devotee's real home is God, or the teaching. The physical house is just where you're staying for a while.
You're a guest in the world, not the landlord.
Exactly, and that leads to the martial arts story about the 3 sons and the wild horse. I think this sums up the whole ideal perfectly.
Let's hear it.
A master tells his 3 sons to deal with a dangerous wild horse. The first son goes in, fights the horse, wrestles it into submission. He gets kicked and bruised, but he wins.
That's the brute force approach.
Right. The second son is more skillful. He dodges and weaves. He's agile, and he manages the horse without getting hurt. That's better. But the third son, he just walks through the field. He has such a quiet, non-threatening, egoless presence that the wild horse doesn't even notice him pass by.
And that's the goal.
That's the highest state. The devotee is like the third son. He doesn't trouble the world, and the world doesn't trouble him. There's so little ego that there's no friction. You're not a target because there's nothing there to hit.
That is profound.
Yeah.
You're not fighting the world. You're not even dodging it. You're just flowing through it.
And that's what Krishna means when he says the devotee is dear to me. It's not favoritism. It's that this state of being, this love without attachment, this lack of friction, is the state closest to the divine nature itself.
So, to bring this all home,
Yeah.
what does this chapter mean for someone listening right now, trying to balance a demanding life with a desire for something more?
I think the main takeaway is that Bhakti Yoga is a serious, rigorous discipline. We often dismiss it as just, singing songs or having nice feelings about God. But Chapter 12 shows it's a discipline of profound psychological stability.
It's about getting your own ego out of the way so you can actually function properly.
Yes, it transforms the battlefield of your life into a field of practice. You don't have to retreat to a cave. You can be an executive, a parent, a student, and still practice this. You surrender the anxiety over the outcome, the fruits, and you dedicate the work itself.
It's like the ultimate form of stress management, but with a divine purpose.
It is. It promises peace, Shanti, right now, not in some distant afterlife. It lets you live in the world without being completely consumed by it.
I want to leave everyone with one final thought, and it goes back to that Tiger Narayana story. It's really been sticking with me.
It raises a tough question.
It does. If we're really supposed to see the divine in everyone, how do we balance that kind of radical love with the practical boundaries we need to survive in a world that can be genuinely dangerous? Is it truly possible to love the tiger without, getting eaten by it? Or is the distance we keep from the tiger actually a failure of our devotion?
That's the tension. Navigating that distance, that is the practice.
Something to think about the next time you're dealing with the tigers in your own life. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.